Zaldrizes buzdaris kosdau.
House of the Dragon Season 2 is coming. It's gonna be out in like 6 months. The teaser trailer's coming soon, and then the trailer will be out, and before you know it, we're gonna be watching the show on our screens. In this video, I want to keep in with the theme that I've been doing for all my House of the Dragon content over the last several months, is leaks. Let's discuss leaks, in particular, everything we know about episode 1. Some of this information was sent to me through the DMs over on Twitter, speaking of which, please go follow me at _hunts, but a lot of it has actually been confirmed through images and even videos that have been leaked to the filming process for House of the Dragon Season 2. So please, before I jump to any of that, if you enjoy this video after you've watched it, please subscribe to my channel. That's the #1 best thing you could ever do for anybody you're a fan of here on YouTube, is to just subscribe to them and then maybe turn your notifications on. Also, the second thing you could do if you enjoy this video is slap a like on it. Like goal is going to be 420. Get it? Those two things tremendously help me out, and thank you for watching. Alright, so some of this information, like I said, was sent to me, and some of it was confirmed through images. I'll try to differentiate between the two. Also, I'm going to include my own ideas of how the season's going to go, right, in episode 1 at least, but all of that's based on what, we've seen leak, right? So, first off, I'm positive Season 2, Episode 1 is going to pick up mere moments after Season 1, Episode 10. So basically, we're either going to get an opening scene with Rhaenyra, right? Remember that crazy face she made at the end of the first season? We're going to pick up right where she left off, and there are rumors, right? And I'm showing you right now, we've actually seen the image, but there are rumors that the first thing we're going to see Rhaenyra do this season is go and try to find the remains of her son Lucerys. Supposedly, she flies over to Shipbreaker Bay, right? And she discovers pieces of her son and pieces of her son's dragon, Arax, and this confirms his death. So getting back on track here, I'm positive the first scene is going to be either something relating to Rhaenyra and what her, response is going to be to her son who was sent as an envoy, right? Or it could actually do the opposite. And since we spent episode 10 with the Blacks mostly on Dragonstone, right? And then obviously we saw Aemon at the end, but we could have the opening scene be Aemon arriving in King's Landing and everyone's reaction to that, right? So for sure, one thing's for certain, whether they open with the Greens or with the Blacks or with the new location, right, is that it's going to pick up right where Season 1 ended, with virtually no time being passed, at least in the first episode, right? So Game of Thrones is famous for doing that. Like, remember when Jon Snow got stabbed, and then when Season 6 opened, it picked up right where, it had left off. Jon Snow's body has barely been decomposed at all. Like, obviously it's really cold at the wall, but you could tell that this was a very fresh incident. Mere moments have passed since it happened, and that's where the season picks up. Game of Thrones did that almost every single season, and then either later on in the first episode of the season or in the second or third episode, there's a brief time jump, and then things kind of pick up and move along. But the opening moments, for sure, for Season 2 are going to pick up right where Season 1 left off. And some other things that are for sure going to happen in the first episode of Season 2 House of the Dragon are several new characters being introduced. Like, if I had to guess, maybe at most 3 or 4 new characters. Not just like background people who are going to be in a few scenes, but like people whose death will be meaningful this season, will have an introduction in the first episode. So maybe they may not die this season, maybe they die early next season, but there's going to be a bunch of new cast members that will come in. If I had to guess, I would say they're going to introduce at least the idea of the dragon seed plot. So we'll get to see one of the dragon seeds that will eventually mount a dragon. We'll probably see like them in a certain scenario in which it's hinted at the fact that they may have some Valyrian ancestry, right? And then also we have major characters that are going to play a massive role in the show, and their plot needs to be developed early on. So I would say, if I had to guess, maybe Daeron should definitely be introduced in Season 2. I know there's rumors of people saying that, he's going to be cut entirely from the show and he won't be seen at all in Season 2. That just doesn't make sense. I refuse to believe that, because if that does happen, then the writers are kind of idiots, right? Like, straight up, if Daeron is cut from Season 2, meaning that his character might be mentioned, but he's not shown, and we don't get to see him riding on his dragon to Saurion, then the writers of this show are idiots. That's a really stupid thing to do, and I refuse to believe that. that. There's no way that they would not include a character that has to play a massive role on the sides for the Greens. And also, he's a bit of a fan favorite, right? Only, like, obviously, that's just my opinion, but also, like, it's kind of confirmed that Daeron will for sure be making an appearance, because not only has George R. Martin said that yes, Daeron exists, not only is there several bloodlines leading from Alicent and Viserys that shows enough children to include Daeron, but also Ryan freaking Condal did an interview where he said, yeah, Daeron is real, Daeron exists, and this is not like the main, or, you know, like modern times where a young son would be with his family at all times. This was more like the king has a bunch of kids and they're not going to FaceTime all the time. He's away in Old Town, right? Ryan Condal has said this. So for sure, I hope in the first couple of episodes of season 2, Daeron is introduced. For sure, we're going to get Gwaine Hightower. We know he's being played by Freddie Fox. He may be one of those other Greens that's introduced. Maybe we'll get Alice Rivers. We do know that one of the first things Daemon does in canon is go to Harrenhal, and he creates a rallying point for all of Rhaenyra's forces in the Riverlands. And when he does this, you would assume, for the TV show at least, he's going to meet Alice Rivers, right? So in canon, Daemon, it's not really known if he had any interactions with Alice Rivers because her name isn't mentioned in his time at Harrenhal. She shows up when Aemon takes Harrenhal, which is after Rhaenyra takes King's Landing. So she seduces Aemon, and the two of them become lovers, right? So it'd be interesting to see if we do get to see Daemon interact with Alice Rivers. Remember, we had that leaked scene that was supposedly an audition for actresses who are going to be playing the character of Alice Rivers, and in that scene, she's actually talking with Daemon and treating him for minor wounds. And we do know that Alice Rivers is going to be played by Gail Rankin. HBO has officially come out and confirmed this, so that's awesome. I'm positive with them announcing her as a character. She's going to be given a bit more screen time than some of the other characters who haven't been announced. So I would imagine, you know, there's a good chance that Alice could be introduced very early on, maybe even in episode 1 of season 2. And then moving things along a bit, one of the massive events that will happen for episode 1, it's not necessarily going to end on a cliffhanger, but you have to have crazy events to open this season with. Blood and Cheese is most likely going to be set up. Now, I've been sent some leaks that say that Daemon supposedly goes to King's Landing himself, and even though that doesn't happen in canon, it's going to happen for the TV show, right? Basically, they said that Daemon will sneak into King's Landing, meet with Mysaria. Mysaria brings Blood and Cheese into the fray, and they decide to go and sneak in and kill Jaehaerys, the king's heir, right? Asenfor's son. I've also been sent leaks that said Rhaenyra is supposedly going to sneak into King's Landing, and that her and Daemon go straight into sneaking into King's Landing after they have that scene at Shipbreaker Bay. So let me backtrack a bit. Remember, I mentioned how Rhaenyra goes to fly and look at the remains of her son to sort of just confirm her death and see it with her own eyes. There's also rumors that came out around the same time as these images of Rhaenyra and her dragon Syrinx looking out at the ocean kind of mourning, that said that Daemon supposedly goes with her, right? And this is after, they've discovered Lucerys' death, that they sneak into King's Landing. So we'll see how it goes down on screen. Now, the last two scenes that are supposedly going to happen in the first episode that I want to mention for this video anyway are, there's supposedly a scene where Aemon arrives in King's Landing after Storm's in, and she slaps the crap out of him. Right after she does this, Aegon comes gallivanting into the room and basically puts a stop to it. He immediately begins to praise his brother's actions, and Alicent's response is to then slap Aegon, but he catches her hand and squeezes. She withdraws the slap and begins to cry as Aegon and Aemon share a cup of wine. Supposedly, this is a scene that happens in the first episode, and then also, this person mentions, this is from the same leak, they sent me this information on Twitter. They said that Helaena will have a vision in episode 1, and she basically does a very similar thing she did in the first season, warning about Rhaenys busting up through the floor, right? She basically says, "The rat is in blood! The rat is in blood!" Like, she's freaking out the whole episode, and then the episode ends with Blood and Cheese. Like, basically those two dudes that in canon were hired by Daemon to go and kill Jaehaerys. They make Helaena choose which one of her children they want to die, and then they kill the opposite one. Alright, and that pretty much wraps up all the stuff that I've been sent for episode 1. I'll probably do episode 2 and 3 and, all the way up till 8 if you all enjoy these videos, where I can, just compile all the leaks that I have for each episode. But I want to cap this one off with something kind of interesting. This is supposedly the big plot arc for Jace in Season 2. Apparently, when Jace arrives at Winterfell, he finds out that Cregan, is gone. Cregan isn't there, right? He finds out that from the Castellan that Cregan has gone north to the wall to help the Night's Watch members stop a wildling raid, right? And supposedly when Jace gets there, his dragon scares off the rest of the wildlings and they run away. But there's several prisoners that are captured, and one of those prisoners is a wildling spearwife named Sarah Snow. She ends up being held prisoner by Cregan, and the Sleeker says that she seduces Jace. And she, like in that process, explains to Jace that the White Walkers are the reason why the Free Folk are coming south, and that if he's going to be king one day, this is part of his kingdoms, and that he needs to protect, even the people north of the wall. She ends up telling him that he needs to convince Cregan to allow her people to pass, and then supposedly, after a few episodes, Jace ends up departing the north, and the Pact of Ice and Fire for the TV show is just an agreement that Jace will defend the wall from wildlings and White Walkers and basically keep a dragon up there, and Cregan, since Jace has agreed to do this, Cregan will then bring his army down south to help Rhaenyra's cause. Now that's nonsense. Most of this information probably was, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, but let me know your thoughts down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Big special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family, specifically my DragonAuntie tier. Those members are the North Must Remember, Breanne Johnson, Pebbles83, and Destiny Mixed Queen Phillips 420. Thank you so much for watching, and check the link down below for a playlist of more content if you want to watch all of my House of the Dragon leaked videos for Season 2.